Look at the screen you are staring at right now. You are likely holding a piece of machined aluminum and reinforced glass that cost more than what your grandparents made in 6 months of backbreaking labor. You tap that glass, and a stranger brings you a $30 artisan meal. You tap it again, and a private car waits outside your rented apartment to take you to a corporate job you secretly despise. You are surrounded by the absolute peak of human luxury. You have the uniform of a winner. You have the gadgets of a chief executive. And yet you are suffocating. If your paycheck stopped tomorrow, you wouldn't survive 60 days without panicking. You are what the system quietly refers to as premium broke. You are flying first class on an airplane that is actively plummeting toward the ground. And the wildest part of this entire scenario? You financed the ticket. Society has fundamentally re-engineered the concept of poverty. 50 years ago, being broke looked like empty cupboards, overdue eviction notices, and worn-out shoes. Today, being broke looks like a brand-new leased electric vehicle in the driveway of a house you don't actually own. It looks like wearing a smartwatch that actively tracks your elevated heart rate because your minimum credit card payments are due on Tuesday morning. Modern slavery doesn't use iron chains anymore. It uses algorithmic convenience and aggressive financing. They realize that if they make the cage comfortable enough, if they line the walls with endless streaming services and instant gratification, you will voluntarily lock the door from the inside and defend your right to stay there. Let's look at the guy sitting in the upscale co-working space right now. We will call him the architect of his own demise. He makes $90,000 a year. By all historical metrics, he should be building an unbreakable financial empire. But watch what he actually does. He opens his $2,000 laptop, financed over 36 agonizing months. He checks his banking app, sees his checking account dipping dangerously close to zero, and immediately switches tabs to buy a $400 designer jacket he saw on a targeted social media ad. Why? Because the sheer stress of having no actual wealth triggers a cortisol spike, and the only way his brain knows how to self-soothe is to consume. He isn't a rational human making an economic choice. He is a lab rat aggressively hitting the dopamine lever, completely ignoring the electrical shock of 29% interest rates waiting for him at the end of the billing cycle. The system doesn't want you starving in the streets. Starving people revolt. The system wants you comfortably numb and perpetually one single paycheck behind. They want you terrified of losing your curated lifestyle. That specific gnawing fear is the core engine of the modern economy. It keeps you compliant. It keeps you waking up at 6 in the morning, answering meaningless emails on a Sunday, and begging for a 3% raise while real inflation quietly devours 10% of your purchasing power. Status is the most expensive, utterly useless drug ever synthesized by humanity. And the working class is completely addicted to the high of looking rich to strangers they don't even like. You justify it to yourself, don't you? You say you work hard, so you deserve the luxury vacation. You deserve the upgraded trim on the SUV. You deserve the 5-star dinner on a random Thursday. But you aren't buying a reward. You are buying a highly sophisticated anesthetic to numb the pain of a reality you refuse to change. You are actively trading generation-changing leverage for temporary, meaningless validation. But the truly terrifying part isn't that you keep swiping the card to maintain the illusion. The terrifying part is the invisible, mathematically flawless architecture that convinced you this financial hemorrhage is completely normal. And once you finally see how deep the programming goes, you can never unsee it. Meet a completely different victim of this machine. We will call her the modern professional. She is 32 years old, dual income, living in the quiet suburbs. She laughs at people with massive, high-interest credit card balances. She considers herself financially literate. But every night at 11:30, exhausted from managing a household and dealing with endless corporate meetings, she opens her phone in the dark. She sees a highly targeted ad for a meticulously branded aesthetic product. She doesn't have $500 of disposable cash right now. But the screen doesn't ask for $500. It asks for 4 easy payments of $125. It's absolutely frictionless. It feels entirely harmless. The most dangerous financial predators don't wear pinstripe suits and work in glass towers anymore. They live permanently in your pocket, disguised as brightly colored apps offering you the illusion of purchasing power without the friction of actual wealth. She taps the button. A tiny manufactured shot of dopamine floods her exhausted brain. Society calls this retail therapy. But she isn't curing anything. She is just bleeding out in smaller, more colorful increments. The buy now, pay later industry is the modern evolution of the back alley loan shark. They just traded the physical threats for psychological manipulation and beautifully gamified debt. They know you are deeply tired. They know your willpower is fundamentally depleted by the end of the day. They engineered the user interface specifically to catch you in that precise moment of emotional vulnerability. They shattered the pain of spending into microscopic fragments. You don't feel the sharp sting of losing $1,000 all at once. You just feel the slow, suffocating, ambient weight of 20 different microloans draining your checking account every single Friday. And here is where the architecture of the trap gets truly sinister. Rule 1. The frictionless debt infection. You think splitting a payment is a clever cash flow strategy. You think you are beating the system. But you aren't managing cash flow at all. You are actively pledging your future labor to pay for a depreciating product you bought in a fleeting moment of emotional fatigue. The algorithmic credit system is a perfectly lubricated mousetrap. The cheese isn't basic survival. The cheese is a convenient installment plan for a lifestyle aesthetic you don't actually need. And the metal bar snapping down on your neck is the quiet, systematic destruction of your future leverage. Every single time you agree to a future payment, you are handing a tangible piece of your autonomy directly to a tech company. You are telling them exactly where your next hour of life energy is going. You stop working to build your own empire, and you start working to satisfy the algorithm. This isn't an accident. The entire framework of modern consumerism is carefully built to keep you constantly acquiring without ever actually owning a single thing. Look closely at the subscription model. You don't own your music anymore. You don't own your movies. You don't own the software you desperately need to do your job. You are leasing your entire existence. You are paying an endless monthly tax simply to participate in the illusion of modern society. We have been deeply conditioned to believe that renting our lifestyle is a sign of ultimate flexibility and freedom, when, in reality, it is the absolute highest form of voluntary servitude ever invented by man. You look at your bank statement at the end of the month and wonder where the money went. It didn't disappear in one massive, catastrophic explosion. It bled out through 1,000 tiny, socially acceptable paper cuts. $15 for a streaming service. $40 for a fitness app you never open. A $90 auto renewal you are too tired to cancel. They explicitly rely on your apathy. They bank on the mathematical probability that you are too overwhelmed by your daily commute and your demanding boss to sit down and audit your own life. You are carrying a mountain of invisible, normalized obligations. convincing yourself that because you can barely make the minimum payments, you are doing just fine. But surviving is not thriving. Surviving is just treading water in the dark, while the tide slowly and inevitably pulls you further out to sea. Rule 2. The anesthesia of monthly payments. The entire consumer economy relies on a singular, massive deception. They trained you to look at the monthly payment instead of the total purchase price. When you walk into a dealership or open a checkout page, the system never asks how much you want to spend in total. It asks what you want your monthly payment to be. This is a deliberate psychological weapon. It is designed to stretch your debt out as far as mathematically possible, ensuring that every drop of your future labor is harvested by a banking institution. You are deeply focused on whether you can afford the $50 right now. You are completely blind to the fact that you just signed away a piece of your future autonomy. Let's run the brutal, undeniable math. The numbers do not care about your feelings, and they certainly don't care about your aesthetic. We need to look closely at the opportunity cost of this exact lifestyle creep. Suppose you bleed out just $600 a month. That is the combined cost of your upgraded car lease, the 12 overlapping streaming services, the premium food deliveries, and the constant stream of buy now, pay later microloans. It feels like nothing. It feels like the standard, acceptable cost of existing in modern society. But if you took that exact $600 every single month, placed it in a painfully boring index fund, and let it compound at an 8% return for 30 years, it turns into over $850,000, almost $1 million in pure, unadulterated leverage. That is your exit ticket. That is your absolute financial autonomy. And you traded it. You traded nearly $1 million for the temporary smell of new car leather, convenience fees, and a closet full of clothes you don't even wear anymore. You didn't buy a lifestyle. You bought an incredibly expensive cage, and you paid the bank for the privilege of turning the key. We live in a culture that heavily romanticizes the grind. We celebrate the guy working 60 hours a week, but working yourself to the bone just to hand your entire paycheck over to a credit card company isn't an achievement. It is a tragedy. You are acting as a willing conduit, moving money from your employer directly to your creditors and keeping absolutely none of the equity for yourself. The system gives you just enough cheese to keep you running on the wheel, but never enough to actually buy the wheel. When you understand the true cost of compounding interest, every impulsive purchase begins to look like a hostage negotiation. You are negotiating with your future self, and you are robbing him blind. Every time you finance a depreciating liability, you are actively choosing to extend your working years. You are deciding that you would rather sit in a cubicle at age 65 than drive a reliable, paid-off sedan today. And the banking sector knows this perfectly well. They monitor your habits. They track your spending fatigue. They rely entirely on your mathematical illiteracy to fund their corporate dividends. You are quite literally the yield they promise their investors. But the most devastating part of this equation isn't just the money you lost. It is the invisible force that guarantees you can never actually catch up, no matter how hard you run. Rule 3. The acceleration of ruin. You think a promotion will save you. You think if you just make $10,000 more next year, you will finally outpace the debt. But the math of the maze is rigged against your ambition. As your income increases, your exhaustion increases. And as your exhaustion increases, your desperation for convenience skyrockets. You start outsourcing your life. You pay for premium delivery. You pay for expensive weekend escapes just to recover from the job that is supposed to be saving you. The more you make, the faster the treadmill spins. The debt doesn't just grow linearly. It compounds in the dark, suffocating your future before you even realize you are trapped. So how do you actually escape? You don't do it by getting a better job. You don't do it by out-earning your absolute lack of financial discipline. You cannot outrun a broken system by simply spinning the wheel faster. The exit requires you to fundamentally change your core relationship with attention and status. The real winners in this game operate completely in the dark. We call it stealth wealth. The true flex isn't pulling up to a red light in a $90,000 financed piece of metal just to impress a stranger in the lane next to you. The true flex is waking up on a random Tuesday morning and realizing you don't owe a single human being your time today. Imagine this exact scenario. It's a Tuesday at 2 in the afternoon. You are sitting at a quiet local diner. You are wearing a blank, unbranded $20 cotton shirt. Nobody looks twice at you. You drive a perfectly maintained 10-year-old Japanese sedan parked outside. It hasn't seen a car payment since the previous decade. The world looks at you and sees an average, unremarkable worker. They see a guy who somehow missed the memo on modern success, but they cannot see the broker account. They cannot see the six figures compounding silently in the background. They cannot see the dividend yield that quietly pays your basic living expenses without you lifting a single finger. You are a financial ghost. You are entirely immune to their judgment, their panic, and their endless keeping up, because you hold the absolute ultimate currency on earth, optionality. To get there, you have to actively court boredom. You have to learn to love the crushing, unglamorous silence of not buying anything. When you get a performance bonus, you don't reward yourself with a luxury watch or a new subscription. You buy more equity. You buy actual fractional pieces of the very corporate machines that are currently keeping everyone else trapped in the cycle. You stop being the consumer and you violently transition into becoming the owner. You have to fundamentally sever the emotional wire connecting spending money to feeling successful. They intentionally engineered you to feel an artificial high when the branded cardboard box arrives on your porch. You must systematically rewire your own brain to feel that exact same high when you watch your liquid net worth cross a new mathematical threshold, while you do absolutely nothing. The architects of this society want you loud, flashy, and drowning in obligations. They are deeply terrified of the quiet ones, because a quiet, unbothered individual who doesn't require constant external validation is fundamentally unprofitable to the credit system. The only way to win is to stop playing their game entirely. Rule 4. The unprofitable ghost. You must become utterly useless to the modern consumer economy. No 72-month car loans, no insidious buy now, pay later micro-installments, no rolling 30% credit card balances. You starve the financial beast by simply refusing to sit at its heavily marketed table. Every single time you resist the cultivated urge to swipe your card for a fleeting hit of social status, you are quietly buying back another morning of your future freedom. It is an incredibly slow, methodical, and aggressively solitary process. Your extended family won't understand it. Your heavily indebted coworkers will genuinely think you are struggling financially. Let them think whatever they want. Let them keep polishing the bars of their beautifully curated digital cages. The true cost of the rat race isn't your money. It's your finite, irrecoverable time on this planet. If you want to stay running on the wheel, keep scrolling right now. Go watch another highly edited video telling you exactly what lifestyle upgrades you absolutely need to buy this month. But if you are actually ready to break the lock, hit the like button, subscribe, and join the individuals who are quietly walking out the back door while everyone else is fighting for a seat at the front. If you survived this far into the reality check, drop a comment saying silent dividends. Everyone else in the comment section will think you are typing nonsense, but we will know you are awake. My name is Daniel Rath, and I will see you outside the maze.